Welcome to the Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System Performance Measures training event for grantees. Today we'll talk about understanding reducing risk for girls in the juvenile justice system. We're going to talk about the program data, how to prepare it, how to collect it, how to track it, and how to report on it. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency's story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System program is operating on the ground. To make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question you see here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data. What is your biggest issue with collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data? Please respond in the chat. We'll give you a minute to type your response. And if you'd like to add the name of your organization and your location, that would be great too. And we'll just give one more minute for your response. If you'd like to respond to the question, what is your biggest issue with collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data? Okay, we'll move on. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation to be emailed later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program, understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect July 2021 through December 2021 and report on in January 2022. Further, you will gain an understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates, and as you know, those are twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. Lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. Now, in the showcase sessions that we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting in January 2022 using these new measures. I'd like to pass the microphone to Ludmil, who will introduce the program's goals and present the newly revised performance measures to you. Ludmil?
Thank you, Rebecca. Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division. In the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division, we have several programs. The program we will be discussing today is Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System. As a way of background, this program aims to reduce risk factors and promote protective factors for girls who come in contact with the juvenile justice system and place them on a path towards success, stability, and long-term contribution to society. And now for some more information on the program background. Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System is the solicitation name for the FY20 and FY21 solicitations. Other solicitations which allocated funding to girls in the juvenile justice system in the past include the OJJDP FY18 and FY17 Community Development and State Division applicants, and OJJDP FY18 Reducing Reliance on Confinement and Improving Community-Based Responses for Girls at Risk. This program is under the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, managed by Carrie Strug at the moment, as well as supervisors James Antel and Jeffrey Gersh. And one of their training and technical assistance partners include the National Florence Critton Mission. Program summary. So this slide captures the results, outcomes, and goals the OJJDP Performance Measures team created alongside OJJDP staff, which ensured the revised measures increased alignment with the OJJDP's overall mission, provided the federal staff with actionable data, and increased the collection of outcome-based data. OJJDP's desired results for the Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System program is to improve the overall response of juvenile justice systems and other youth-serving organizations to girls entering the juvenile justice system. Their first goal is to reduce the involvement of girls in the juvenile justice system by providing resources and training and technical assistance to these systems and youth and other youth-serving organizations to implement screening and assessment protocols. Their second goal is to implement a collaborative approach to respond to justice-involved youth by providing resources and TTA to juvenile justice systems and youth-serving organizations to train staff and help support them as they implement their treatment services. Their third goal aims to increase justice-involved girls with positive outcomes and reduce victimization. They plan on achieving this goal by supporting juvenile justice systems and other youth-serving organizations as they implement evidence-based prevention and intervention strategies, programming, practices, and services. And now we will take a moment to remind ourselves of the performance measures review process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System program. As you review these with me, please note that they are newly revised performance measures, meaning you will recognize some of them since not all of the measures were changed. Our framework. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are results of activities such as trainings and/or meetings. Outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we are here today, to ensure you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 reporting period come January 30th, 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measures outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at the OJJDP Performance Measures microsite or through the link provided on the screen here. Organizing performance measures. Output measures, these are product-based. and also under the performance measures type. Output is a countable product or service that your program provides or produces. The volume of work your program accomplishes, such as number of youth served, number of trainings conducted, or number of training and technical assistance requests completed. Outcome measures. These are measures-based. Outcomes track the change in knowledge, attitude, skill, and/or behaviors that occur within an individual, family, agencies, systems, or community. They can be short or long-term. The performance measure category was broken down into overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. The Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System program has 16 overall measures and 11 multi-program measures. I'll be highlighting some of these measures in our discussion today. Now for some more information on the performance measures categories. In overall measures, you will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of population. 1, with shared targeted populations. 2, those with similar service delivery models. And 3, those with shared outcomes. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. So let's take a look at these measures. The number of program youth and/or families served. This is a previously written measure and is a key output measure OJJDP regularly provides to elected officials and leaders. Grantees submitted data on this measure if they conducted any direct services. The old measure only focused on family and youth served in a treatment program during the reporting period. The measure was also one of the most flagged measures during our data verification process across OJJDP programs. Many grantees duplicated their data for youth served or were confused because of the different age requirements and age populations by state. Due to all of those concerns, our OJJDP performance measures team decided to revise the measure. Number of individuals served. As you can see, the revised measure is more expansive. By updating the language from youth to individuals served, it is now broader. Grantees can accurately reflect the populations they serve as they are broken down by isolated age ranges. Our team also expanded the definition to include, or definition of family to include legal guardians and additional family members. We updated the measures to ensure grantees submit more accurate data that reflects their organization's work. We will now move on to the multi-program measures. Percentage of eligible individuals served by a multidisciplinary team. One of the objectives of this program was to track the type of services grantees were offering the individuals they served. As a result, our OJJDP team created multiple measures to capture the types of services offered. We defined a multidisciplinary team as 2 or more individuals from different disciplines who worked collectively to accomplish a shared outcome for a group of individuals. For this measure, you will provide the unique count of individuals served by a multidisciplinary team. Percentage of eligible individuals served by an intervention service. We define intervention service as programs or services intended to reduce delinquency and other negative behaviors in individuals. Intervention may include diversion, arbitration, community service, work, treatment, or community-based programming. For this measure, you will provide the unique count of individuals served by an intervention service. The percentage of eligible individuals served by a mental health treatment service. We define mental health treatment services as programs or services intended to assist individuals with mental illness improve or relieve their symptoms. Treatment usually involves developmentally appropriate intervention or therapy. For this measure, you will provide the unique count of individuals who receive mental health treatment services. Percentage of eligible individuals served by a trauma-informed service. This measure, you will provide the unique count of individuals who receive trauma-informed services. Trauma-informed is defined as services that recognize individuals exposed to violence and trauma and use methods to help them recover from the impacts of trauma without re-traumatization. Percentage of partnerships maintained. Another objective of this program and larger OJJDP office is to ensure grantees are using collaborative efforts and creating partnerships to conduct their field work. OJJDP aims to improve the juvenile justice system through these multidisciplinary partnerships. As a result, our team created a measure to help identify and track the amount of organizations maintaining partnerships. We define a partnership as a formal collaborative effort between two or more entities. A maintained partnership is a continuous formal collaborative effort in effect for 6 months or longer. For this measure, you will first provide the unique count of partnerships established in line A, then the number of partnerships maintained in line B, and lastly, the type of partnership in line C. Number of new evidence-based practices employed. Federal agencies are beginning to enact the Evidence Act. It is important grantees start to incorporate evidence-based practices, policies, and programs into their work, as it is becoming a federal requirement. As a result, we created some multi-program measures which could help capture this information. For this measure, you will provide the unique count of new evidence-based practices your organization employed. Number of new promising practices employed. While OJJDP is encouraging grantees to employ and use evidence-based practices, we understand some may need more time to develop or put these methodologies into practice. As a result, our team and OJJDP is also encouraging people to employ and use promising practices. A promising practice is less strict in definition than evidence-based practice. For this measure, you will report the unique count of new promising practices employed. Percentage of eligible individuals who achieved permanency. In this measure, our team defined permanency as a child moving from out-of-home care to live with an adult with whom the child has a continuous reciprocal relationship with. This could be through adoption, legal guardianship, reunification, and/or emancipation. For this measure, you will first report the unique count of eligible individuals who achieved permanency. You will then report the unique count of individuals who were adopted, reunified with their families, secured legal guardianship, or were emancipated. Percentage of eligible individuals who received educational support from family members. The last measure we will review today is one of our protective factor measures. Our protective factor measures aim to capture attributes in individuals, families, and communities that increase the health and well-being of individuals and their families. Percentage of eligible individuals who receive educational support from family members focuses on the involvement of parents and kin and the individual's educational development. For this measure, you will provide the number of individuals who received educational support. Then, you will provide the number of individuals who received educational support from family members. While you begin your data collection period, we wanted to discuss some common data collection barriers you'll experience and potential solutions. Data collection barriers may include the following: data privacy laws. While designed to protect the identity of youth, an important goal which we all support, these laws also limit the ability of systems and organizations to share information if you are working with the same youth. Transient population. Youth and families involved in the justice system tend to move around, and it can be hard to have up-to-date contact information to follow up with them in 6 to 12 months after leaving a program or system. Tracking system. You may not have an internal data collection system in place, people to do the data entry, or someone who can follow up with youth, their families, or other organizations. Multiple data systems and/or databases. States, local jurisdictions, and organizations typically use multiple data systems to collect information on youth involved in the juvenile justice system. These systems often cannot talk to each other or collect different fields or data and are unable to share information easily. Data matching. Programs and systems may have different information for the same youth, such as different addresses, phone numbers, and names, which poses difficulties with determining if the information refers to the same youth. And lastly, youth and family member reluctance. Youth and family members may be reluctant to respond to a follow-up communication after exiting a system or completing a program. They might just want to be done with the process in itself. So some solutions to help ease these burdens: sharing data across systems and organizations, gathering information from youth and their families. So to do so, you usually need some type of formal agreement or partnership to get around data privacy laws, such as memorandums of agreement, parental consent forms, or court orders to share information. Some jurisdictions are able to have shared data systems, and many awards support the development of task forces or coalitions. One of these items the groups can work on is to establish an MOA or process to share information. To collect individual data, you need to contact the youth or their family directly. We suggest treating the follow-up contact less about collecting the formal data you need and leaving in your questions as part of a general check-in with the youth and or their families to see how they are doing. To collect information on whether youth commit a new offense or a offense, if you don't have a formal agreement with your local law enforcement agency, collecting the information directly from youth or their family is an okay alternative. The Models for Change Information Toolkit has some additional information examples from jurisdictions along with sample documents. Another important step is to create a data collection plan, which Rebecca will review with you in a section later on. I will now pass the presentation back to Rebecca.
Thank you, Ludmil. Before we move into data collection and planning, I have a scenario to share with you. Brenda Sokup, she's a new Reducing Risk for Girls in the Juvenile Justice System grantee. She's just received the newly updated performance measures, attended this learning event, and is sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection in the July through December 2021 reporting period, and then report in January of 2022? And we'll take just 30 seconds for your responses. If you'd like to type something into chat, please do so now. Okay, try understanding what is being asked. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, other items that can help Ms. Sokup include making sure that you have a copy of the performance measures definitions and questions to use and reference during your planning. You want to familiarize yourself with the set of performance measures, as Cassandra has pointed out, and you want to follow a similar process of data collection for any of these measures that have not changed, similar to what you've done in the past. You want to determine who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data, and who will be responsible for reporting the data into JustGrants in January 2022. Now, we understand each program may have a unique or slightly different approach to data collection and reporting, so determine what works best for your program. We will now review several best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measure for your program, identifying each question that needs to be answered, creating a plan to identify when and how you will collect the data. For example, what type or tool or instrument would you use to collect the data needed to answer the questions? And has the tool been validated or used before? There are several best practices you can implement when collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle. Be proactive in your approach. Designate staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. Review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering data. Ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. Lastly, pay attention to all communication from JustGrants, and if applicable, review, edit, and validate the data with subgrantees before reporting if you have subgrantees. You're required to enter data on all performance measures that relate to activities described in your approved OJJDP grant application and carried out with OJJDP funding. As a grantee, you should plan to collect data on behalf of all of your subgrantees. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period, as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? For example, will you track them using an Excel spreadsheet? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is on a shared drive, who is given permissions? Lastly, how will you communicate change? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? We will now review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address these following topics. What do the numbers you report on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? Use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric outputs to the tangible outcomes, and use specific and detailed, concrete examples to illustrate your point. Other things to think about, including in your narrative, could be providing evidence to support conclusions, talking about the things that funding has allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding, and include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. On the screen, you see an example of the rural program narrative example. Next, let's discuss best practices for reporting. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, For example, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a 0 value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description, such as, "We are still in our planning period," or "There was no activity during the reporting cycle," are acceptable responses in JustGrants. Avoiding duplications and counts can be very challenging as well. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is award-based. Another best practice when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down your funds and create a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award for those instances where you have multiple awards. You want to contact JustGrants with any concerns related to any error messages found in JustGrants, and you want to contact the PMT Helpdesk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. Some grantees may receive funding from other awards or multiple awards. A service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. It's important to note that this session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the upcoming updated performance measures. You will be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 in January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, PII, should be done with considerations towards the Privacy Act 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasions of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or a similar locked enclosure. And when using sensitive PII, keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So, how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you have not been collecting detailed data on victims served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass it to Muniba, who will discuss various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Okay, it looks like Maniva's having some technical issues. I think her microphone is down. So I can just read through a few of these resources for her. Maniva wants to say that the PMT Helpdesk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact them by calling the number on the screen or emailing the email address also listed on this page. Provided here is the OJJDP PMT Helpdesk confirmation. Their office hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMT Helpdesk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. Regarding communications surrounding JustGrants, if you have questions about the JustGrants system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number here on the screen, 833-872-5175, between 5 o'clock a.m. and 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Saturday and Sunday and federal holidays are the only days that they are not available. And actually, they're available those days, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, so that's great. And if you experience any issues with the JustGrants system, please contact the JustGrants support listed on the screen. As for instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in JustGrants, they can be found on the video here. I will put the links as well in the chat box so you have it. And all the information is also provided here on the screen. And I will pass it back to Rebecca. And it looks like we might have some continued technical issues. I know Rebecca was going to reflect on what was presented today. And first, Rebecca discussed reducing risk for girls in the juvenile justice system performance measures, noting that the specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we learned about best practices for collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December period, reporting in January of 2022. So you may be wondering, Katie? What's next? Yep, go ahead. Go ahead, take it away, Rebecca.
Thank you, Katie. All right, and so what is next? Right. The next steps include the opportunity we currently have to collect data that will inform changes down the road. Now, for our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You will receive a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMT Helpdesk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges you may face implementing that measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred, and we have identified those changes or updates that need to occur. For now, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And that concludes today's session.